Ever since 2022, my most anticipated movie has been Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now that the movie is finally out, did it live up to the hype? Yeah, I'm not even gonna beat around the bush. Yeah, it did. This is without a doubt the best film in the trilogy. The action, story, CG, everything comes together so well. It's almost hard to believe it all started from this. Also, heads up, we are diving right into spoiler territory. If you haven't seen the film already, this is your cue to leave and watch it. But then come back. Don't leave me, please. So without further ado, let's open the floodgates of spoilers. Let's start with the film's main attraction, Shadow. I'm happy to say this is probably the best version of the character. Okay, put away the knives and pitchforks, let me explain. Same can be said about Maria. In SA2, Maria just kind of felt like a plot device for Shadow's character. I mean, recent Sonic media has gone about fixing that, filling in the gaps in Shadow's time on the Ark. That is a sentence that exists. Why did I write it like that? Establishing her personality more, especially with the recent Shadow Generation stuff, including Dark Beginnings and the campaign. But in the movie, they make sure to do the legwork in getting us to care about Maria outside of her connection to Shadow right in this story. We actually get to see her teaching Shadow about Earth's culture and way of life, and we get to see the two of them just having fun. They made me care about those two and their relationship, which makes her death more tragic. One thing I do prefer in SA2 is how deliberate her death was. In the film, it was kind of portrayed as an accident when one of the gun soldiers accidentally shot some explosives. But in the games, you know, well, we all know what happens in the games. I don't know, it's just, it kind of makes Shadow's quest for revenge feel a bit more justified in the games, whereas in the film, doesn't. I get they had to censor it to keep it kid-friendly, but seriously, how did Sonic Adventure 2 get an E rating? I think the biggest thing that made me care about this version of Shadow and Maria is actually removing her terminal illness. While I do like Shadow being a test tube baby more than just being an alien, well, I really left that one ambiguous so you could bring back Black Doom a third time, eh? I like the fact that they weren't forced to get along, so to speak, and instead naturally built their friendship. Next up on the chopping block, our other main hedgehog, Sonic. Something I really like about this trilogy is that you can actually see Sonic grow up real time, slowly becoming the character we know from the games. It's actually the same thing they pulled in the Spider-Man MCU trilogy, and I really like that trope. As such, this is the most mature this Sonic has ever been, which is a weird thing to say about Sonic of all characters. I thought Sonic filled Amy's spot in the original narrative as Shadow's pep talk pre-redemption very well. Which is hilarious to say, considering literally 5 seconds earlier he was trying to rip him to pieces. Having Sonic struggle with revenge along with Shadow is probably what made me love Sonic in this film. The biggest problem with SA2 for me is how, you know, good the dark story is, and then the heroes are just kind of off doing their own thing. It's like a regular Tuesday night, Saturday morning adventure for the heroes. Whereas with the Dark campaign, it's actually substantial plot stuff. They fixed that by having Sonic struggle with the same stuff Shadow did, which, you remember the reaction video, right? Like, something bad clearly happened between him and Shadow, and it is clear that something is gonna go down.
Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone, because I f***ing called it!
I don't really have much more to say. I just really like the parallels they drew with Sonic and Shadow, and it made their rivalry and eventual team-up more earned. And finally, as per usual, Jim Carrey carried this film for all the people who aren't a fan of the CGI animals. Eggman was actually really good in this film, which I know shouldn't be a surprise considering this is based off of SA2, but still. I knew they'd try to kill off Shadow because of SA2, you know, his sacrifice moment on the Ark to save humanity or blah blah blah. But I was not expecting Eggman to get his own self-sacrifice moment. I figured Agent Stone would betray Eggman for the years of poor treatment, so imagine my surprise when the reversal happened and Eggman finally told Stone he appreciated him for all he did. Not entirely sure how I feel about Eggman stealing Shadow's win, but let's not worry about that! Of course, Ivo isn't the only Robotnik that Jim Carrey plays in this film. Initially, I was worried Gerald was just gonna be Eggman 2 Electric Boogaloo, and he was, but I feel like most of it was just an act to try to get on Ivo's good side so he could get his help and try to destroy the world. I 100% knew that Eggman was going to betray Gerald the moment he discovered why he wanted the Eclipse cannon. But the way they handled it was really well done, so I can't really fault the predictability. I mean, again, we have like 20-year-old games to go off of. While we're on the subject, I do not think Jim Carrey's coming back. I know, you're all gonna be very disappointed. Look, he's getting old. He's nigh on 70. The dude deserves retirement at this point. But also, Eggman's death in this film seems pretty definitive, if you ask me, which is kind of my biggest complaint with this film. They killed off both of Jim Carrey's roles, and yet still expect to make movies. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jim Carrey wanted to come back. He seems to have a blast playing as Eggman on set. Really can't blame him. But if that's the case, they really shot themselves in the foot killing him off. With Eggman gone, no long-term threat like Shadow going forward, it feels like they wrote themselves into a corner for future entries. This really should have been the end of the series, if you ask me. People say the same thing about SA2, which begs the question. Why would they repeat the same mistake twice? Shadow's a good guy now, Eggman's dead, and sure we have Agent Stone, but I don't really think he'd have the ability to carry as the main villain, or even if he'd want to with Eggman gone. Sure, we have the post-credits scene. Metal Sonic, finally! But again, Metal Sonic isn't really main villain material. Maybe for a one-off entry, sort of like he was in Sonic Heroes, but no Sonic villains have the same staying power as Eggman. To kill him off feels like definitively saying, alright everyone, show's over. I get the feeling that the films will start to go the way of the live-action Transformers films, where they'll just get worse and worse, eventually releasing another great animated film that nobody will see because they've been burned too many times. I don't want these films to have their own 06 moment where everything goes downhill. But if they don't stop here, that's what's going to happen. Okay, I don't want to end this video on a down note, so I'm going to talk about my favorite part of this film to wrap this up. Super Sonic versus Super Shadow! Holy crap! I almost wasn't going to talk about this fight scene since there's no footage of it. For obvious reasons, the film's still in theaters, but this was too good not to mention. Holy crap. I don't even want to read off the script, I just want to gush about it, like... Look, using Sonic's most powerful, invincible form at his most emotionally vulnerable is such a good juxtaposition that I love it. And having Shadow fight him in that form? Like, that was insane! Oh my, I'm getting giddy just thinking about it. First off, the part when Shadow straight up Hadoukens the Chaos Emeralds out of Sonic was awesome. Sure, it wasn't Knuckles, whatever, that was awesome. and then when Shadow powered up, I knew things were gonna hit the fan. Holy! I do kind of wish they didn't cut back to the two Jim Carreys on the arc, but at the same time, I get it. That's what fight scenes always do. Aside from that, I have no complaints. That was awesome. Yes, it was a bit short, but we still got our team up right after it. Live and learn. 10 out of 10, pure cinema! Alright, now that all is said and done, one question remains. How does this film stack up compared to the rest of this year's entries? Is Sonic 3 the best new film of the year?
Probably best to let the losers down abruptly.
Agreed.
Transformers 1 is the best. Overall, though, I'd have to say I like Transformers 1 better, which makes me sad I didn't do a video on it. At the end of the day, we can all agree on one thing, though. Paramount's been on their A-game this year. Overall, I'd rate Sonic 3 2024, I had to make that distinction, a nice 8 out of 10. Please go watch it if you haven't already. If you're not already a Sonic fan, I guarantee this film will make you one. Or if not, you'll at least have a good time. Thank you guys so much for watching my first scripted video on this channel. Like, I didn't expect the Sonic 3 video to be my first scripted one. Let me know if you guys like this format. Alright. The most anticipated moment of the decade has come and gone. Now what?